Welcome to the Inspiring Humans podcast. We are so happy to have you listening. My name is Stephanie Woolard, and this podcast is a platform to showcase the incredible human spirit. On this podcast, I'll be interviewing people from all over the world and all walks of life who will be sharing with us their personal dreams and their dreams for the future. I believe that through coming together and creating community, incredible things are possible. In fact, anything is possible. And I hope that this podcast is a launch pad for creating the new world that we want to see, that will have humanity free, thriving, and living in their full self-expression. So today I'm here with Merrily Hunter, who I first met probably 4 or 5 years ago. And what really inspired me about meeting you, Merrily, was just your business nous and your energy, which is very uplifting, very positive. And also, you know, the why behind the business that you're involved is, which is being energy efficient and, you know, all things sustainability into the future. And you've got an incredible business model, which I want to take a bit of a deep dive into today. But welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being willing to be interviewed.
Thanks, Steph. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So you've just given me the most incredible explanation before pressing record of what you've created in the business that you're in. So I'd love you to just give a bit of an overview of the energy efficiency business that you've been in over the last few years, because it's moved from consulting and training now into the actual product that you deliver to the customer. So I'll hand over to you to give a much more articulate explanation of what it is that you do.
Absolutely. Well, I guess to kick off with, what is energy efficiency? Energy efficiency in its most basic sense is finding a product that consumes less energy to have the same result at the end of the day. So if you think of that in the sense of a light bulb, if you've got an old halogen and you upgrade that to an LED, you've got similar light outputs, but one consumes 10% of the energy than the other does. So in Australia, there are various state-based energy efficiency schemes that encourage businesses and households to upgrade their appliances to more energy efficient appliances. And the idea behind that is, if everybody uses a little rather than what they're using today, then we need to generate less. It means that we don't need to build as much coal and gas base load power in order to sustainably run our cities. And the more flexible and smart the technologies that we have in our homes and businesses, the more flexible and dynamic our energy market can be, and we can transition to more of a renewable-based energy market than where we are today. It's been a long journey that I've been working in energy efficiency, and from all ends, from the policy through to the installation side of things. But I started MAC Energy Efficiency Group in 2014, actually after being made redundant and realizing that energy efficiency was my passion, and I wanted to go out there and share my knowledge. But I was also tapped on the shoulder by a couple of different companies asking me to come and work for them and teach their businesses about energy efficiency policy. And these are energy companies that had an obligation. They're all given a target each year to meet. And if they don't meet that target in energy savings, they get fined. So there's a policy mechanism that sits behind it to push people to make those decisions. So because I'd spent the previous 10 years specializing in energy efficiency and deep diving into it, I started a small consulting business called MAC Energy Efficiency Group that really was there to educate, do training, consulting, coaching, and also auditing. So actually going out and doing site inspections of work to make sure that it met Australian standards, so that it met compliance standards. And over time, we realized that a lot of the issues that we were finding in fields stemmed back to the training that was being provided to the installers and to the tradespeople. The more research that we did on that, reading through ABS statistics and reading through literacy and learning levels, we realized that a lot of the tradespeople being asked to do these installations had barely over year 3 literacy levels. A lot of dyslexia was a problem. There were a lot of language barriers, and yet training was being given in huge written manuals and Australian standards coming out. So that created our offshoot business, which is EEIQ, Energy Efficiency IQ, which is an online training portal that converts all of those manuals and written guides and instruction guides into animation and film. We've got an animator on staff, and we work with film crews as well to convert all of that written material into a video so that installers can watch what a good job looks like and overcome those language barriers and also the metro barriers. There are a lot of regional and remote installers that weren't participating in these energy efficiency schemes that purely to be able to access the training that was being provided in the cities as opposed to in their regional communities. And EEIQ overcame that barrier. Now, last year, with COVID shaking everything up, we took that next step, and one of our big clients that we've been working with for a number of years wanted to transition and move out of the space, and we acquired that business, and that's Trade Services South Australia. We acquired it because it was a perfect complement to the business model. We had been talking about it and teaching people what a good job should look like, training the installers, and now it was time to put our money where our mouth was and show that we could do it and prove that it's not all talk, it's not all theory. We can actually put this into practice and run a trades business in South Australia that is doing these energy efficiency upgrades in businesses and households throughout the state. And today we've got 150 installers throughout South Australia doing this work. We're probably the largest energy efficiency service provider under the energy efficiency scheme here in South Australia, and we provide a range of commercial lighting upgrades, hot water upgrades from gas and electric to solar, and also air conditioning installations of high efficiency HVAC systems, which has always been a problem with peak demand in the energy market. That's it in a nutshell.
Amazing. And so what is Energy Efficient 101 for the average Joe Blow, the household that is making these decisions of whether to switch? And can you just give us a bit of an understanding on, is there a price difference? I know there's subsidies from the government on certain things. And also would love to hear about, lots of people are wanting to move off grid, so they're more sustainable, for themselves and not reliant on the government or the. So how does it kind of work in that context to enable people the freedom to move off grid?
Absolutely. So every house, an average home, consumes about 6 megawatt hours a year in energy, megawatts a year in energy. So if you know that that's your footprint, what most customers would do, the first solution you would look at is go and buy a solar system to pop on your roof, and you'll get one that's generating sufficient energy for your energy needs in your home. But there's a step in there that should take place before you go and put that solar panel on, and that's optimizing your home. It's a buzzword, but really it's about making sure that your home is consuming as little energy as possible. And that's not based on behavioral changes, that's based on technology upgrades. Australia has a really bad history of building poor housing stock. In fact, we've got one of the highest mortality rates in a developed world based on seasonal fluctuations. So people dying because of poorly insulated homes due to extreme weather that we have here in Australia. It's a pretty serious issue. So retrofitting your home, what that means is putting in insulation. You can lose up to 30% of the heat within your home through your doors and windows and through your roof cavity. Making sure that the air conditioners that you're not using little portable fan heaters on your feet that cost $20 to buy at Bunnings, but jacking up your energy bill by $400 a month. Changing over your hot water system, something as simple as an electric storage tank, switching over to a solar hot water unit will save you nearly $1,000 a year in energy costs. So it's not about just replacing your generation sources, which is your solar panels and your batteries. It's actually having a look at your home and saying, what are the appliances I'm using? And is there an LED option for all of the energy consuming appliances I have in my home. So rather than you going out and buying a 6 kilowatt solar system on your roof, once you retrofit all of the energy appliances in your home, you might only need a 3 kilowatt system to run your household without you having to change your behaviour. Now, the states, except for Queensland, so it's on the eastern border, everybody is part of the NEM. You've got, the NEM is the National Energy Market, sorry, acronyms, there's 100 acronyms in this space. New South Wales, ACT, Victoria, and South Australia have state-based energy efficiency schemes. And what that means is that they provide incentives for householders and businesses to upgrade their energy efficient appliances. I was mentioning before about an air conditioner promotion that we're running here. A normal 2.6 kilowatt air conditioner to be installed in your home would cost around $1,500 or $1,600 to be supplied and installed. Because of the energy efficiency schemes in South Australia, we're able to offer it for $500. So the customer pays $500 and the scheme is able to cover the gap, really, to help you upgrade appliances and reduce your energy. Now, the benefits behind that means that the government spends less in building additional generation capacity like gas and coal baseload power, because everybody is using a little bit less, and it gives you more smarts in your technology to be able to flexibly control appliances based on demand of the energy market at any given time.
Amazing. Yeah, well, thanks for sharing it in that way. And I know, I just think it's so clever what you've done, moving from consulting and training to now the product, because it's like all your initiatives work as a little ecosystem together. And I get super excited about that sort of, business and how businesses evolve to kind of start in one area and then they see, and I just think what you do is such a fantastic example of the need, the need that's out there, and really understanding that need, which a lot of businesses kind of don't do that and then wonder why they're not succeeding. So it's just fascinating to hear that story of evolution. And I'd love to just, I know that you're the biggest female-led trades company in that area where you are in South Australia, and it's kind of a male-dominated industry, the whole sector that you've been working in. And I'd love to hear a bit about that, but also what's the why? Because you strike me as a very driven person, and you really obviously believe in what you do. And what's the story behind that? What led you to become involved in that in the first place?
There's a few parts to that, actually. So with my team, it actually hasn't been a focus of mine to make sure that we have a female leadership team in any way. It's actually just happened organically. It was the best person for the best role, and making sure that it was genuinely based on merit. And it just so happened that the leadership team that we have here now are female. Our commercial manager, our accounts, our compliance and quality assurance, as well as our systems and IT manager, they all just happen to be female. It has been an interesting space, especially with the energy efficiency scheme. I'm on the board of the Energy Efficiency Council here in Australia, and they're leading the way in the fact that they have a 50-50 equal board in their gender balance, and gender being only one of diversity factors that are considered throughout that matrix. And with ourselves as well, it's I've got to admit, I've probably had about 3 different people ask me over the past few months if I'm helping in my husband's business. That happens a lot, especially in the trade sector. It's pretty unique, but there's a long way to go. Of those 150 installers I mentioned before, I think only 1 or 2 of them are actually women. And I think that there's a long way to go to encourage more females in the trade sector, but also in the energy sector, for something that's so fundamental to the way that we run our households and businesses, to have so little representation, not just in leadership, but also in active roles and leadership roles within the energy and energy efficiency industry. There's a long way to go to have equal representation there, and a greater focus on diversity. From the other part of your question in what inspires the why, it's changed along the way. The why has always been about, for me, a good deal is one that everybody wins from. If the customer isn't winning and you're not winning, and there being a greater picture of all of this, then it's a bad deal. If you're the only one getting a benefit out of it because you're pushing a product and the customer may or may not benefit, that's a bad deal. And I get a real buzz from being able to be pushing something like energy efficiency and like reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, knowing that I'm part of a bigger picture and knowing that I'm playing a role in that. It's a real buzz to be able to push something you genuinely believe in and you genuinely know hand on heart is making a difference, especially when you do it at a scale that we're doing today. From the training perspective, the why was that in converting our manuals away from instruction manuals and standards, I felt a real feeling of injustice about the fact that a lot of tradespeople were being asked to sign things that they couldn't read. I felt that there was a real inequality in the way that tradespeople, who were the critical decision makers of appliance changeovers and who were the boots on the ground getting these things done, not being trained or recognised in the way that they learn. A policy was being written, it was being passed to the businesses that had the contracts, and then being diluted and pitched to an installer that might not understand and might not be able to read or write that way. So EEIQ was a concept that we put into practice. We trialled what difference would it make if we put our manuals and the Australian standards about energy efficiency into animation film so that our installers could watch. And the results were immediate and astounding. We found that our plumbers that sat the hot water course revisit rates, where you have to revisit a site to make corrections, dropped by nearly 40%. It was 38% that they didn't have to revisit a site to correct things. And when we would talk to those same installers that had previously sat our training courses in a classroom setting and being given manuals to read, they would recall one element that I'm remembering is one of our plumbers recalling the colour of the washer that we used, the flow restrictor that we used in the video. They come in lots of different colours, but he said, I remember now to put the red thing in. And I realised then that this could be applied in so many other settings. And even Tesla today, in the rollout of their power walls and batteries, only do it in animation and film. They understand that as well. And I didn't realise that until a couple of years ago. EEIQ has been a baby of ours for 6 or 7 years now in building everything that we build in paper and we build in manuals, we're converting. And that also plays a bigger picture as well, in the fact that we're paperless. We're doing everything efficiently. We're recognizing the way we want to learn and putting that into a setting that's appropriate for people in all diverse backgrounds and education levels.
And that's fascinating. And I just think I get really excited about the whole piece that you've actually understood how the people that are installing learn and created a system for them. I just think that's because, I mean, how many areas does that happen in where there's like government policy, but it's not accessible to the people that it is affecting? And I know they do all their surveys and they, but there's such a disconnect sometimes, and it's just you've kind of pieced that together and connected the dots, and amazing. The results that you're getting are incredible. The fact that they don't have to go back and do call outs again and repairs and change things, and incredible.
Yeah, actually my brother was a key part of that, the birth of the idea of EIQ. My brother is a tradie, he's a floor builder, and he came to me saying, there's a tender that's out and I really want to bid for it because these other guys, they keep winning these floor building tenders and they do terrible work, but they're asking me to read all these documents, they're asking me to read the standard. I don't know what they're asking for. And so I've clicked in and helped him navigate the standard. I said, well, they're asking for 3 mil here and 5 mil. He said, yeah, that's standard. Why don't they just say that? And I thought, why don't they just say that? Why don't they put it into the language, and then everybody wins? From a government perspective, you're able to get the best workers for that job that might not be administratively savvy, but are going to give an excellent quality job at the end of the day if you communicate in the way that they're communicating. And there seemed to be a real disconnect. And that was the birth of the idea of EIQ, that this could run and be applied in so many areas of our work, and why policy writers couldn't understand why the policy wasn't being implemented in the vision that they had originally had. It wasn't that it was unsuccessful. It wasn't that people were trying to dodge the scheme. It was actually that missing link, like when you're building a house and you have an architect that creates a design and a concept plan. They don't give that design and concept plan to the builder. They convert it into working drawings. That working drawings piece wasn't happening. And I think that that's why a lot of policy is great in theory, but it's not being implemented and rolled out in an effective manner because they're not being given working drawings.
Fascinating. And do you think on a global scale, where is Australia at? But also so this is another double question in one, where the receptivity of people, or, you know, the motivation that the general public have to make the switch. Do you think that people have a good understanding of exactly, you know, what's on offer? And do you think that that's, is there a good take up? I mean, I'm not sure myself. Is there a good take up of these incentive offers that are being put out there?
Good question. So where is Australia at? We're performing terribly in a global sense. It's the state-based schemes and original Labor energy policy that has driven the achievement of targets today. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a situation where the federal government has not prioritised climate change urgency, and also understanding the incredible size of the industry that could be created purely by assisting the transition by implementing policy. I've regularly had bruises on my head from banging my head against the wall, thinking, how could you not see this? How could you not see this huge opportunity in front of you that transitioning to more renewable-based energy technologies industry is not a cost without reward. It's a huge area of employment. It's a huge area of policy, and we could be a leader in this space, and we're not. If it wasn't for state-based energy efficiency schemes, and funnily enough, the state-based schemes are a mixture of Labor and Liberal ministers that are both putting energy efficiency on the front line, saying this is critical, this is the way forward, and these are the steps that need to be done. So they're doing a lot of the grunt work there to get energy efficiency on the radar and putting that as a priority piece. South Australia is at a critical point in that their renewables in their energy market is the highest than any other state in Australia, except for Tasmania. And their renewables penetration rate is at this critical tipping point where they have so much energy pumping onto the grid between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. because of the solar power and renewables-based mix, that at 5 o'clock, when everybody's coming home and turning on their air conditioners and turning on their lights, they've got a constraint issue, especially during summer. So they're going through a bigger transition right now, switching everybody to smart meters where you can measure the time of use, and you've got a price signal for different times of the day when there's excess energy and less energy, and also rolling out smart technology to be able to deal with those periods of constraints and move towards a 100% renewables goal. With storage backup, you need to have the smarts available within the homes and businesses. Now, from a take-up rate in South Australia, the take-up is quite good, but awareness is low. In fact, there was a survey just done recently by SACOS that showed about a 13% awareness rate. Now, that's far higher than it was a few years ago, but there's still a long way to go for people to understand what benefits they're able to get. When we kicked off, we started air conditioning this year, and through the trade services channel. We'd previously just been doing hot water and lighting upgrades. We started air conditioning in March, and the response has been overwhelming. It's not just a price-based decision. We're making sure that the products that we're putting into people's home, we put in our own home. We want to practice what we preach and do a good quality job. So it was a great product that we put out, great installers that we had in the field, a great price that we're putting there. But we also, in having a diverse leadership team, one of the first questions we asked our team was, how do you shop? You're the critical decision maker for your home and your appliances. How do you buy things? And there was a lot of frustration about dealing with tradespeople and calling up a trade and not being able to get a real price or know if you're being hoodwinked, and getting a real deal. And sometimes it's by phone, and contact is an issue, et cetera, et cetera. So we put that endpoint in front of mind, and we changed the way that customers interacted with us by putting air conditioners and hot waters in an add to cart model on our website. So you could add an air conditioner, fill out your information, select purchase, and it goes straight through to your website and home, and then your correspondence is coming by text and email. And we were able to standardize what a standard install would include with those caveats, and say, if it's not a standard installation, then based on an inspection on the day, you'll be told if there will be this extra or this extra or this extra applied. And that, it was a trial again, just to see if we had this solution available, what would it do? And we realized it's really disrupted the air conditioning market over here. And people are enjoying being able to deal remotely, make a transaction the way they would purchase anything else, their groceries, their clothing, everything else has moved online except for our trade sector. So it was an interesting transition this year to see, will this work? And no, absolutely it does, because the response has been overwhelming. And we've also been making sure that there's a lot of awareness there through social media. Social media hasn't been commonly utilised in the trade sector. Our background being that we had animators on staff, we had team members that were great in their coaching and training modules. We started running little awareness clips and popping that onto Instagram, popping it onto Facebook, boosting posts on Facebook and things like that. And I don't want to use the catchphrase, it went viral, but it was overwhelming, the response. It was far higher than we ever predicted it would be. So I think we've tapped into a need there in the trade sector to be easy to deal with and transparent to deal with, by putting your prices upfront, available for anybody to see, so you know what you're going to be up for at any given time, and be able to pay in a secure method using methods like Afterpay and bright green and finance options with ethical lenders. We weren't prepared to use payday lenders. We vetted the companies that we were selecting to partner with to make sure that their ethics and values aligned with our own. It's changed. I think it's changed the energy market over here, or the energy efficiency market anyway, in how you deal with the trade sector. But maybe that's me being overly optimistic. We'll see how it goes over the years.
What you're explaining is kind of the thing that you think, surely that would be in place already. But, it's a genius idea, but you kind of think, surely that would be available to people already, but it hasn't been, which is why it's become so successful, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can buy appliances online. You can buy fridges and freezers, and you can buy the box, but it's the installation we're selling as a supply and install package. So even if you go to your Harvey Normans and your JB Hi-Fis or Good Guys, you can purchase a box, but then you've got to arrange with them to do an installation, and there's a lot of back and forth. It's not as automated as purchasing the box itself. So when you're engaging with that service requirement, I guess that's where the uniqueness sits in that.
Awesome. I'd love to ask you, with all your experience about, starting as an individual kind of tiny business in consulting, to now managing a team and acquiring a business in South Australia, and then having that, an umbrella company, bringing a lot of other businesses together. what's that kind of journey, leadership journey, been like in managing people and creating a successful culture and making sure everyone's, what does that kind of look like in your sector and through your own journey in your business?
Look, it's been one of trial and error. I'm not a structured, I'm not a very structured, documentation driven person when it comes to managing people. So it has really evolved organically. The team here, the team that I originally employed when I started Mac, they've been with me for the whole journey, and I look after them and they look after me, and I'm very humbled that they continue to choose with me. And I feel the same way about the other businesses that we've acquired along the way, that I'm an oversharer in our vision and where we want to be and what we want to do. And the people that have come on that journey through the businesses share that same vision and share that same enthusiasm and know that they're part of something so much bigger than just putting a box in a home. It doesn't matter in my team whether they're the field auditor to the policy writer to the call center phone answers, they're all just as important as each other, and we don't really have that tiered hierarchy. We tend to work in a more of a let's work on a group project method. As we grow, that may change. There is only one of me to go around, but ultimately the teams, our individual departments, they're professionals. They're all adults here as well. They don't need that supervision of somebody scrutinizing their work day in, day out. And most of the people here are parents. They've got kids as well that they need to balance in with that. We're not a traditional 9 to 5 visual-based business where you need to see somebody's doing the work to know that they're actually doing that work. We're a delivery-based business that if your outputs are achieved, then that's the measure of your success in that role. And from a performance-based issue, and for me becoming a manager, it's been haphazard. But I think that the proof is in the numbers, in that the team is still here. I've still got everybody today that I started with, more or less, unless they've gone into other chapters of their own life. And I hope they'll be with me for many more years.
And personally, how's your role changed over time, and how do you kind of manage your time as new things change and the business evolves and grows? How do you have a daily routine or a structure to make sure that you're getting done everything that you set out to do?
Absolutely not. No, there's no trick, there's no structure. I commonly feel like I've picked up a fire hose and I pointed at the nearest fire first. And having so many moving parts and so many different parts of the business, I think the hack or the trick is to make sure you have an amazing team that you trust to have your back. The team that I have here, as work comes onto my plate, I see who would be best fit to manage that, and if I can do it myself, I step in. If boxes need to be packed or somebody needs to pick up something from the warehouse, I'm out there in the warehouse. If phones need to be answered, I'm in there answering the phones. And it's not that's not my job mentality, and I don't think anybody here in that team, in the team here, has that either. In trying to find my team members, it's taken a while to put the right people into the right spots, and that's been a lot of trial and error to make sure that the team who communicating with me, team members are saying, I really like this is my strength, and identifying that strength and then creating a role for them to excel in an area of their interest, and then that's allowed me to be able to hand work over to that space, and it's been a growing journey for them as well. No, there's no hack. I'm a mum now, and it's always a juggle. I have a fantastic partner, my husband, that helps in the business some days, but is primary carer for our daughter, and even that has been a journey in itself in switching traditional gender roles. He's comes from a very traditional Greek family, so for him to be the stay-at-home parent and for me to be running the business, it's been a shift and not one that he's ever struggled with, actually. He's always been on board with it, and he's always wanted to do this, but hasn't really felt like he could communicate and he could come out and say, this is really what I want to do, and know that it will be received well. So I think that if anybody's starting out on a journey to grow their team and go through those transitions in business, starting from one base to the next, hire slow, make sure that the people that you're putting in are going to be in seats that reflect their personality type, their strengths, and what gets them out of bed in the morning, what's their hum, because then they will do their job without you having to push it or force it, or constantly be encouraging them and giving them the enthusiasm to do it another day. If they're already driven to do that, you know that you're on a good path there. And look after them. Think about the best boss you ever had and try to give them the same kind of support. They're all people too, and your business is made up of people. And if you look after those people, they'll look after you most of the time.
Unreal. So what brings you the most joy just in general in life, in business?
Look, I'd be remiss if I didn't say my daughter. She's an incredible, sassy 3.5-year-old going on 15. And I honestly wonder whether one day she'll use her powers for evil rather than good. But that's a growing journey. My family give me the most pleasure, my extended family and my immediate family, but my team are also my family here as well. And the wins that give me a real buzz is when we see schemes extended, when we see that part of our target at the moment is making sure that we're doing a certain amount of our activities in hardship homes, and there's this real deep-seated, almost visceral response to comfort in the home and an emotional outpouring of people who have been struggling, not being able to be warm or cold enough, that are now able to access an air conditioner that's super energy efficient for a fraction of the price. And it's bringing about these emotions, and it really makes you feel like you're making a difference, not only in energy efficiency, but also in mental health and well-being of the community that's commonly overlooked.
And that's a great lead on to the last question, which is what is the legacy? What's the ultimate legacy that you'd like to leave in everything that you're doing?
Oh gosh, that's a big one. But look, if I think that by the time I skid into my grave with a worn out body, I hope that Australia is a lot further along than where it is from a climate and policy perspective. I think that there's a lot of change that's well overdue, and I feel optimistic that we're actually going through that transition now. I hope that I'm the first of many women that come through this channel to energy efficiency and to energy industries to change the makeup of what's happening there today, and to disconnect this notion that environmentalism, conservation, and sustainability, it has to be at a cost as opposed to making economic sense. It can be capitalist driven, it can be a business driven outcome, and it doesn't have to be a question of quality and integrity to successful businesses running. We call it the sleep at night factor here, that if you can go to sleep at the end of the day knowing that you've done a good job and that your business is running to help people really, then that's all you can really ask for. So I think that's a little bit about what I'd like to achieve when my time is done here. But I'm sure that'll change as time goes on. These things always do. I think that's the biggest mistake I made when I was young and first starting out, that I had this pipe dream of where we would be, and it stayed like that. It's never been like that at all. It's always gone backwards, forwards, each which way. It's never been a linear thing.
I love that, because it's, the flow of life. I feel like even when you kind of said about your daily structures and things, I think although I've changed recently to be more disciplined and set the intention at the start of the day, and that's working way better than before when I used to go with the flow and get heaps of stuff, emails, and so more energy efficient excuse the pun, for my day to kind of work through what I need to do. But I think when you are able to go with the flow of life, magic happens. That's when you kind of find yourself in situations that you're just like, wow, this is divine timing. This has been, this is lining up perfectly, and magic kind of happens. So it's I love that approach, and I love the fact that you kind of, everything's always evolving and changing. I think that's a really important message as well. Thank you so much for your time. You're an incredible entrepreneur and visionary, and I just think your business is super inspiring in an area that is really, really needing a lot of people like you in it to expand what you're doing, and it's super valuable to a lot of people. So thanks a million for sharing some of your wisdom and golden nuggets today on the podcast, and for giving us your time. Thanks for listening to our Inspiring Humans podcast, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any inspiring human in mind that you would like to nominate, please reach out and let us know. Also, you're very welcome to become part of our Facebook group called Inspiring Humans, where you can connect with incredible people from around the globe. Thirdly, if you are interested in being part of a global network, we have an incredible community at 7continentscouncil.com, where we hold events, programs, and many different initiatives that you can be involved in. Thank you, and see you again soon.